Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast, talking comics, movies, TV, and pop culture every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, part of the Rogue Matter podcast network. That was our cool announcement in the first segment, which is pretty awesome. But you can check us out every weeknight, every Wednesday night, facebook.com/Rogue Wave podcast. Go to Rogue Wave podcast without the E.com to subscribe and check out roguematter.com. Be one of the first to jump on. It's a brand new digital content company. It's going to be really exciting. We're really excited to be part of it. And yeah, that's it. All right. Netflix released a brand new action-packed blockbuster starring Jamie Foxx called Project Power. Gives you superpowers in a pill, written by Mattson Tomlin and directed by Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman. Project Power is a smart and entertaining action-packed sci-fi film, according to this write-up. That's more than what it seems. When we think of the word power, we tend to associate it with physical strength. In New Orleans, power is the name of a mysterious new street drug that can either give those who take it unmatched strength or kill them instantly after ingestion. It stars Jamie Foxx and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, along with Dominique Fishback. That write-up is actually really, really great. I wish the film was anywhere near that write-up or complex as that write-up was. Let's do this. Let's look at the state of Netflix blockbusters for a second, right? Okay, so we had Old Guard that came out last month. Very similar. Has Charlize Theron and it has Jamie Foxx in this particular film. So Charlize Theron was in Old Guard and Jamie Foxx was in Project Power. If you were to take those two actors away from this film, this is no greater than a made-for-cable, late-night, 2 a.m. I don't want to say Cinemax, but that's where these kind of movies would end up, but it's not a soft porn film, so I don't want people to confuse that. It's not a Skinemax 2 a.m. film. It's a,
no.
It's a USA. Showtime or, like, what's it doing on at 2 a.m., and maybe you have insomnia and you'll be entertained by it. But take those two actors out. I'm saying, look, the actors are in it, right? But it's very these films are so similar, right? Or at least for me. They take a really cool concept, spend about 2 minutes on the cool concept, and the rest of it is like, what can we do? How much action can we throw in? How much cool, like, stunt choreography can we throw in, and cool, like, angles so that it looks like a video game and it's hot and it's young and it's fresh. And it's basically, yeah, that's it. It's basically the same movie to me.
It does have a lot of action-y tropes and stuff in it. It's it brushes on some brilliance, and then it gives you a really interesting concept. It's got a great it's got a great prop. The pills are great props, like the way they look or whatever. But pretty much as soon as you see the pills and you understand what the pills are for, that's kind of when they drop the pills, Yeah. Like, they don't really emphasize on the pills. I think we talked off camera. We were talking about, like, they don't emphasize how the pills were developed. They don't even spend, what the process is.
Seconds. Yeah, they don't spend 2 seconds on how they're developed, except to show us, like, animals. And they're like, look, animals can do this, so we figured it out. And so I don't understand. Like, the most pivotal scene in the movie, right, was probably, or the most standout scene in the movie was probably when, that punk rocker looking dude brought his girlfriend in to the club, and she takes the pill and she's in the center of this, like, fishbowl, and they get to watch.
Which makes her seem really stupid also. That some of that stuff is so implausible. Here, please step into this isolated cage and take this experimental drug.
Right.
We just want to see what's going to happen.
Right.
While everybody stands around gawking with champagne. Like.
And somehow they knew that if she turned to ice, that she would, we have to raise the temperature in there because she can't handle it. So what animal, first of all, can, like, basically have the powers of Iceman and freeze themselves to the point, but then also that their body can't handle it? Like,
Penguins,
I'm not sure.
Maybe, I don't know.
but that's the whole thing. Like, this movie, again, it's like Old Guard, and again, Old Guard is actually vastly superior to this film. Let me put that out there, right? But Old Guard does the same thing. It's like, what if you're immortal and what are the pains of being immortal, and what are the conflicts? What if you could grow old with someone, but who's also immortal? But then meanwhile, what if you're watching this the whole time and just being jealous the whole time, right? I mean, there's all these deeply interesting things that you can do with the movie, right? Or the concept, or in the villain's case, what if you're trying to crack the immortality code because your wife died? Totally makes sense. Here, I know a lot of people are kind of like aping on it because it's like, well, wasn't that a DC comic or wasn't that an X-Men comic? Look, they don't get to corner the market on what would you give up for power? Would you give up, would you take the risk, the Russian roulette of you could either die or you could go fly for 5 minutes? That's not a unique concept.
They don't even really emphasize that.
But they don't do anything with it.
That's mentioned.
That's the log line.
And then one guy, I think they show one guy take a pill.
Yeah.
He explodes. And then they just, that's all you get on that. That's all the information that you get.
Is it addicting? Like, is it some sort of like because the one guy, he's like basically running for his life from Jamie Foxx, and he's like, well, I'm just going to take 5 of these now because it's over.
Yeah.
And,
and it turns out to be unwise.
Yeah.
And then also, you get superpowers. A normal person is chasing you, have these superpowers.
Right.
And yet, they show Jamie Foxx beat the guy.
Right.
And then he ODs on the. You would think that if this is augmentation and this is a problem, and that the cops are having issues because this is a problem, then you wouldn't. The first thing you show wouldn't be a normal guy who's not even a cop.
Right.
To be able to defeat one of these guys, So then you're like, well, okay, so really what's the problem? You just get 5 cops instead of 2, for each case. And you got budgetary issues, you got manpower issues, but you really don't have a problem with this particular drug. So, I know.
No, they wanted to show what the Human Torch could look like in a Fantastic Four movie. They're like, we need to
But we've seen it.
We need
it's not.
But not this guy's vision of it,
Yeah, I'm gonna be controversial and say this: powers are not interesting.
Right.
Nobody's interested in powers. You can't really define what Captain America's powers are.
Right.
You can't really define what Thor's powers are. I mean, he can fly, he can shoot electricity. Is that the extent of it? Is it? So, I mean, and Iron Man doesn't have a power. He's got a suit. These characters are seriously interesting to us because in spite of the powers, they are characters. They have personalities. Right. They have wants. So that whenever Captain America does beat the crap out of somebody, because if you honestly think about Captain America, he's a guy who solves all of his problems with his fist.
Right.
He's not a deep thinker. He's not a Batman. He's not a detective. Right. But the reason why we don't lump him into some kind of bouncer, some glorified bouncer, is because he's got a character.
Right.
Because we know what he wants, what he doesn't want. He's got a pathology. He's got his a lost love. He's got a lot of things that we invest in. Powers in and of themselves are visually pleasing, but they're not in any way interesting enough for you to sustain watching a 2.5-hour movie or a 10-hour television show.
Right. Even if the powers give you a struggle of some kind, like an internal struggle, like either like Rogue's power, right? Like she can't love anybody because she can't touch someone. The conflict is not in the power. The power is just the conduit for the conflict, right? And so if there is none, it does nothing. The other thing this movie fails to do to me, and I don't understand. Again, I don't want to be super spoilery. We usually wait for a week to do the super spoilery stuff, but believe you me, we're not spending another week on this movie. Like, unless it's to talk about the fact that Netflix is not doing a sequel, or
unless it's to talk about the fact that we're not spending another week talking about
right, exactly, it. Right. This is not like Umbrella Academy that actually was A, very good, but also B, was culturally picked up on. So we did 2 weeks, which was great. This is like, they really don't give you any explanations here. And I'm not someone that needs a vast amount of explanations, but besides not going into the fact of the powers, and again, super spoilery if you haven't seen it, I'm trying to figure out a way to do this without spoiling it. I don't think it's going to happen, but Jamie Foxx's daughter is the key to all of this. I think you said it off camera to me once. You're like, she was the key to cracking the code of how this works. And again, they showed a couple animals on screen, and somehow that was enough to build a designer drug. and somehow it's a designer drug market. Again, I don't know. Because everyone's going to sell it to some shady government, of course. But how would you create 5-minute super soldiers that have any effect in it? All right. Anyway, back to my original point. See, so many things that bother me. Turns out she's the key to all this. Jamie Foxx's daughter is the key to all this, which is why he's after her, which is why she got kidnapped in the first place. There is no mention as to how she's the key, why she's the key. Maybe Jamie Foxx. I mean, you could do something just as simple as, man, I knew I shouldn't have worked at a nuclear power plant when you were a kid. Because now you're a mutant.
Yeah.
No.
Something, just anything. When you remember when you were bitten by the radioactive, slug, and then, no, there's nothing.
Not even that. It's just like she just is, and you're like,
we're supposed to look at it and go, oh man, this is really interesting. Oh yeah, and Jamie Foxx is in it, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in it. That legitimizes the whole thing. It makes it really good.
Which again, their performances are excellent within the context of the movie. I'm not talking that their performances are legendary in the annals of acting. I'm just saying that they do a really good job. Joseph Gordon-Levitt has that great scene with the mom where he, somehow comes in with the towel on, and at that point my suspension of disbelief has gone out the window anyway. So it was just fun to see him do that. And again, without Jamie Foxx, anchoring this thing is unwatchable. But yeah, no, it's.
Well, I don't know if I agree with it. It's unwatchable, but
right,
I agree. It's unremarkable. It's unremarkable.
Okay. That's a much yes, because ultimately I give it like a C plus B minus. It's not like I give it an F or anything like that. It's basically a, it's a upper C, lower B type of movie. So yes, it's not unwatchable. I don't mean to be that harsh about it. I think my harshest criticisms come in the fact that there's so much potential that was wasted. Old Guard were guaranteed a sequel because they pretty much guaranteed a sequel with the ending of it. So maybe they'll, rebound in the second movie and really get into the crux of the interesting things about the concept that they failed to get into. And
maybe
if this has a sequel, maybe they'll get into more of it. But this movie left me with no desire whatsoever for a sequel. And not just because they didn't end in a cliffhanger, but because there is just no desire for maybe. Look, actually, I take that back. As soon as the credits rolled, I turned it off. So there might be an extra scene on it. I'll look this up, but there might be an extra scene on it. But I didn't even bother to stick around. They drove away. I'm like, cool. I'm like, I need to go to bed now.
So meh for you.
I give it, so yay, nay, or meh. I give it a nay. With a meh on top of it. Or meh with a nay on top of it. I think that's the way I got to do it. A meh with a nay on top of it because of squandered potential.
How does that even work in your grading system?
I think my meh is indifference to it, but I'm angry that I'm indifferent to it. So I get the nay is on top of the meh.
All right, fair enough.
What's your?
I'm a meh.
Yeah,
it's meh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not angry. Whatever. Okay, fine. But I probably won't be going back. No. Like there won't be a second viewing.
No. And look, the state of Netflix blockbusters right now, this movie is only even being reviewed by us because there's nothing else out there. Netflix they've cornered the market. They've managed to
corner the market on nothing.
Right. they are the happy the lucky benefactors of timing.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
All right. Fair enough. When
we come back, we are thrilled to be joined by Sabretooth himself, Mr. Tyler Main, with his unbelievably talented wife, Renee Geerlings, former editor-in-chief of Top Cow, movie producer, actress. What a combination coming up next. With a cape. No, anything. Yeah. Cape is always crazy. Cape is always crazy. Look, there are clowns walking the streets right now.
Right now.
There is no one dressed in a cape. Rogue Wave Podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and the disruptors behind it.